Other interesting political news, you have the incandescent light bulb under attack and killed by the Biden administration. Now, I might be a little bombastic for some with that statement, but it is actually true. It wasn't just one act or one stroke of a pen. It was many years of politicians attacking incandescent light bulbs, which is perhaps one of my favorite examples of a useless thing nobody cares about. Like if you talk to a mom and pop, what do you want your government to be doing? Do you want them to be lowering taxes, fixing the roads, decreasing the crime? Yeah, those make more sense. But light bulbs? Who is writing their congressperson or the House of Representatives or the senator saying, hey, Bobby, I want you to ban these light bulbs. Get rid of them. The most useless topic on the planet. But in some cases, they use a little bit more energy than the LED light bulbs or the compact fluorescent light bulbs. So you must go after them. Another great example of them saying, we're not doing what we're doing, but then they actually do it. You saw this with gas stoves in New York and other areas of the United States where they said, oh yeah, we're just going to get rid of gas in certain parts. And before you know it, they're banning it in all construction of all new homes. Another perfect example of politicians lying on the left and the right. Now, this comes after decades of Democrats outlawing light bulbs. And again, an issue I have with this in terms of the environment, compact fluorescent light bulbs are garbage because look at the warning label on them. They contain mercury. That is something on the periodic table of elements you don't want to mess around with. There's a reason you don't buy mercury thermometers anymore because if not handled properly, the vapors are extremely hazardous. There's a lot of negative health consequences from that. That's why many industries moved away from using it. Now, you contrast with, so that way, that means and this is a big if you have someone who is aware of that and they're going to recycle this in an environmentally friendly way, they have to take extra steps to find a place that's going to take that particular compact fluorescent light bulb, as opposed to just chucking it in the trash. Now, the incandescent light bulb, while it uses more electricity, guess what? There's nothing really hazardous in there. Toss it in the trash. Also, if they weren't engineered to fail, they would last years. You have I believe it's a firehouse in California where they have an incandescent light bulb that's been turned on for, I believe, over 100 years, and it still won't die. That's partially because they're now engineered to fail, which unfortunately is a theme you see with a lot of products these days. Back in the day when they first came out with the incandescent light bulb and Thomas Edison actually perfected the design, all the materials made them last, quote unquote, too long. So years later, they actually changed the materials so they would time out. Like literally, after a certain amount of hours, they're engineered to just break. So you have to buy another one. If manufacturers didn't do that, you have a much more exceptional return on investment from that light bulb. And again, in terms of contributing to the landfills, I would argue that's actually better for the environment. So if any government intervention at all was needed, which again, I'm not a fan of any intervention pretty much most of the times in business-wise, because they usually make the situation worse for the consumer and the businesses, but in this situation, why not have a law that says, okay, you can have this incandescent light bulb, but it has to last a certain amount of hours. They would switch back to the other materials. Unfortunately, that might raise the cost, but if it lasts longer, it's still good for the consumer. Or even better, just allow the free market to do what the free market wants, and they make what the consumer wants, and people buy what they want. And manufacturers and consumers are rewarded appropriately. But I digress. Let's get into the specifics of how did this happen? Because you're going to see this theme with a lot of topics these days. Now, it looks like this road began back in 2007 with the, again, euphemisms. There's a whole group of people in government who just get paid to write fancy titles for bills, I swear. Probably a pretty easy gig. That'll be replaced by ChatGPT. Now, it looks like this is, in 2007, you had the Energy Independence and Security Act that was passed, which is hilariously ironic because, instead of being energy independent and drilling on, making more natural gas in the United States and actually refining more fossil fuels, we really import it from countries that hate us and use less reliable alternatives. But I digress. Another topic from another time. Now, the 2007 Energy Independence and Security Act passed, and that law required the Department of Energy to evaluate whether efficiency standards for light bulbs needed to be set or amended and require a minimum standard of energy efficiency for light bulbs of 45 lumens per watt to be considered. The 2007 law required that if the DOE determined the new energy efficiency standards were necessary, they would go into effect January 1st, 2017. However, the policies intervened as Trump administration appealed those rules. Now, they go on to say that not all light bulbs are included in this ban. The exceptions are made on many of them, including appliance lamps, black light lamps, bug lamps, because they want you to eat the bugs. Conspiracy? Perhaps not. Now, colored lamps, general service fluorescent lamps, marine signal service lamps, mine service lamps, silver bowl lamps, showcase lamps, and traffic signal lamps. Many, many exceptions. However, like every time a government law comes out, the exceptions are usually pretty much just all taken away. They say, oh yeah, we're going to pass this, but we'll have exceptions for this. But then after a little bit of time, they say, oh yeah, we're going to go after those. You saw this with the stoves, the gas stoves. You see this with guns. It's one of those things where it is cliche to say, but if you give them an inch, they will take a mile or two these days. Now, they also continue saying, while 45 lumens per watt energy standard was being phased in December, the Biden administration kickstarted the process to consider increasing the energy efficiency standard for light bulbs that are over 120 lumens per watt for the most common light bulb. That would accelerate the transition away from the compact fluorescent bulbs as well. So perhaps they're finally starting to wake up to the fact that mercury isn't a good thing, and they're going to look at more efficient LEDs. Now, unfortunately, LEDs are much, much more expensive. So there's a balance with most things in life, and of course, nothing is free. Well, depending on what you get from the government, but it costs someone something, so I would actually take that back. But it's also one of those issues where, guess where those are made? Usually not here. There's a huge infrastructure of made in the USA incandescent light bulbs. And granted, I'm probably one of the last old souls who still cares about that. This table, 100% made in the USA, also by me, but all the components I bought specifically because the components were made in the USA, from the screws to the bolts to the legs of the table, my legs too. But it's fascinating to see, will this really ban it, or will someone push against it? Will a politician take up this cause, which would be almost for the comical relief? I'd be interested to see if a presidential nominee focuses in on the light bulbs, just because, again, light bulbs is not the end of the world. It's a small thing, but perhaps a good metaphor. Now, I'm saying this is a very important copy-paste in terms of political ideology or political actions, because we're seeing the same thing with the automotive community. The reason they're getting away from V8s and adopting EVs is because of tailpipe emission standards. Now, they're not technically saying that you cannot make a V8. There's not a law that says you can't make a V12 with a stick shift, as most cars should. Perhaps they'll get a couple of V8s or stick shift as well, just for diversity, of course. But there's no law saying you can't make a V8 or a V10 with a stick shift. There are increasing exponentially the rates, or rather decreasing the rates that they're allowing for tailpipe emission standards and fleet averages, that being the fleet average of every model that you make of a vehicle. And they're saying it has to be a certain amount. Now, if you're saying it has to be a certain amount, the only way with the current technology we have is to make EVs to offset the other vehicles you're making. Or in some cases, killing all the cars together and making 100% EVs. So in both cases, it's very much a de facto ban. And again, being a purveyor and someone who actually appreciates the free market, I'm very much against those things when you see them happening on the left and the right side of the political aisle. So it'll be interesting to see, will someone run for president for the sake of the incandescent light bulb? Perhaps someone should call the Trump team or the DeSantis team and see. Maybe, I was going to say, the DeSantis team is long overdue for a political win. Maybe this will help them pull out of the tailspin. Time shall tell. Hey. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of August, so I especially appreciate you taking time to click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to like as well as comment. Your feedback is greatly appreciated as we make the show better and better every day. Really trying to get better at slowing down my pace of speech, so thanks to the comments, I know that it is something I need to focus on. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.